Barbara Martin. Okay, my name is Barbara Martin, and the workshop we're going to do now is going to be more active than not. We're going to cover two topics: connecting with nature for well-being and also for connecting to the divine, and labyrinths. Now, I figured I'm going to talk a little bit, a very little bit about labyrinths first. Everybody should have three pieces of three handouts, two about connecting with nature and one with a labyrinth. The one we're going to take outside is this one pager that has tree exercise at the bottom. This longer document about communing with nature is by Kevin Tedeschi and somebody else, Henry Reed, which I found very useful, that I was on the ARE website maybe 5 months ago or something like that. And it's useful background, another perspective. And the third thing is a labyrinth document explaining about labyrinths from Wendy. So we are going to focus on the tree exercise, and we are not going to do the labyrinth with me because I don't think we have time, but I'm going to say three things about the labyrinths. Labyrinths are geometrical patterns used for walking or tracing as a tool to assist the consciousness. So that's why you use it. A labyrinth differs from a maze in that there's only one way in and one way out. And the third thing I'm going to say, this is a very useful document, by the way, is the method that I have heard the most, used the most in using a labyrinth is if there's something bothering or you have a question that you're pondering, you don't know the answer to, you start at the entrance, you ask the question of yourself, and you walk at whatever rate works for you towards the center. When you get to the center, you wait, and you wait to see if an answer comes to you. It may not. And then you walk out the same way you came in. And Wendy was giving examples this morning, and she's had a lot of experience with them. So I will show you when we go outside. As soon as I finish talking, we are going to go outside, and I'll show you where the labyrinth is first. And then in your free time today, tomorrow, whatever, you can use it if you want. So, connecting with nature. I don't know about you folks, but I just love being out in nature. I feel closest to God when I'm out in some natural, even just gardening. You know, I love getting my fingers in the dirt and that sort of thing. As we now know, I mean, many of us really like this as well, but the Japanese have discovered the value of forest bathing, which is where people, you know, you're stressed to the max and you find a bit of a park or some greenery or something, and you just walk through it. So, okay, we can talk more. Does anyone else just want to interject? Like, how do you feel, or Zoom people? It seems that this group connects very well with nature. Sam, for example, came up to go to the old growth forest. I don't know if anyone has any comments they want to add right now. Yes, Louis.
Well, I'm a landscape painter, so I love being outside painting. It's a really good excuse to be outside and actually enjoy nature. I also garden, like you. And I do find the energy out there. You know, when in my lifetime as an economist, when I had a high pressure job, I would go home and take weeds out of the ground and get my hands in there. And had an incredible effect in terms of letting go, you know, all the stuff, the daily stuff, and then it sort of balances you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Thank you, Louis. Anyone else?
I always, when they were raising my kids and everything and a business at the same time, it was sometimes very stressful. On the back of our property, we had this big maple tree, and so I would go and sit with friend tree, and they just sit there and they lean on friend tree, and climb over the branches and hang over, and it's just so soothing, and I've always
Yeah.
loved trees.
I think this may be an attunement in this group that has been gathered here, right? Okay, so what we're going to do, people, I'm going to let you read all this literature at your leisure. I'm going to read the instructions that we all have, those on Zoom as well. Tree exercise. This is what we're about to do. If you can bring the energy up on an in-breath and down on an out-breath, it will add to the effectiveness of the exercise and help you harmonize with the tree's energy. Step 1. Standing or sitting, lean your back against a tree. 2. Feel the earth energy coming up through the roots and up the trunk to the tops of the branches. Visualize this at first until you are able to sense it. 3. Now visualize the energy coming up through the soles of your feet and up through your body, through the crown of your head and up to the top of the tree. 4. Now bring the energy back down again through your body and into the earth. So I would say we're going to go out. I'm going to show you where the labyrinth is. Then you all choose a tree and do this not once, do this for, I would say 15 minutes or something like that, what feels right to you. And come back at 1:45 and we will share our experiences. Are there any questions before we go?
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
I know we're touching the tree and the tree is grounded, but if you've ever heard of earthing, it's the rubber soles of our shoes separates us from earth wherever we are. So in order to balance the electromagnetic energy in your body, you should take your shoes off and connect
Touch
to
the earth?
directly with your feet. No, pardon, I'm too cold, but I'll try.
I'm not going to do it today. Yeah, right. It's point taken, Shirley. And I love running around barefoot, but I'm not going to do that today. We'll see if somehow we can bypass the rubber soles or something like that. Are there any other questions from the Zoom people or room?
Anybody have any questions there? See anything? So they're going outside too, and you're all to come back at 1:45.
Yeah, so you have about 35 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
And we're all going together to the labyrinth first, so you know where it is. But is that a nice place to be?
That's where I usually am.
Oh, there? Oh, you need it to be grounded. You'll have to do the exercise again now, repeatedly.
Okay.
No, I'm teasing you. It's like whatever. It's the rubber soles in your shoes. That's what it is. Yes, we know.
Take those shoes off.
I just go around by going like that.
Yeah, right.
I stood on my head.
Good for you. Yes, Louis.
So I had no rubber shoes underneath.
That's right. I ended up that way too. What about Zoom people? Do we have any comments from the Zoom people?
Sorry, I didn't do it. I have no trees anywhere close.
They can do it another time.
You can do it another time. Okay. I'm just wondering if anyone was able to go out in the yard or something. So did anyone have any what particular experience?
My tree said, I'm not just this size, I am much larger. I have an aura like you wouldn't believe, and that's why it's still way up there and up there. And it's aware of everything that goes on in its vicinity. Right down to the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's where everything. Yeah.
Well, that's what they say, because of the roots too. They're all interconnected with the other trees around it.
Just the roots.
Sorry, well,
Because
put it, yes. Well, my tree laughed at me.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, like I was I decided to talk to it after we had shared energy for a while and it was just laughing. It was sort of like a, woohoo, very happy tree and okay, fine, whatever.
Did you hear the bird go through laughing?
There were lots of birds, actually, those,
Did you hear the bird laughing?
maybe?
When that bird went through laughing and the tree started laughing. Oh, nice.
Okay,
So it was-
there's a
It was
connection.
sort of a trigger from within the tree laugh too.
Okay,
I had
I believe you.
On my feet, but he that close. He thought other used to be in bed or something.
yeah.
I was sure that she was just standing too still because I thought it was gonna go up her pant leg.
I picked the old oak that's been coming down.
Oh, yeah,
And that's a surprise. I mean, I've seen that tree for years and years and didn't really ever read anything about it. I knew it was famous, but now I've read all about it. But I thought it's interesting because it's the whole cycle of life, you know?
Mhm.
How many other trees it spawned and how it's saying goodbye. And you think of the young 19-year-old who planted it and all the people who stood under it. And it just was such the continuity of life. And yet here it is. And I understand that people are taking things locally and making stuff out of the oak. And
Yeah.
I know when my husband built our pergola, he went to the neighborhood and it's all hung and groove and what do you call it, mortise and tenor or whatever, it's no nails. And he found an old oak tree, says you have to make your pit, the things out of oak. And he fashioned the oak to put it from our neighborhood, to put in the pergola. And it just made me think of how
Yeah.
the recycling of life.
Continuity.
That is, yeah. So it's
That's
really nice.
lovely.
That poor old oak.
Lovely. Anybody else have anything?
I went to a little tree that was kind of damaged. And then I went to a big tree that was dead.
Does this tell you something about yourself?
And it did feel different. I mean, I did feel something from the dead tree. I didn't know it was dead when I was leaning on it. But I don't know, it didn't speak to, it just felt different, that's all.
Mhm.
I know some big redwood trees. The little trees usually begin on a dead tree that's fallen over, it's called a nursery tree. And to get the sunlight, they start growing on top of that old one, and then that's why you see those big openings. And then you can drive a car through the big redwoods. It's because that the nursery tree underneath it that gave it life was that big.
Oh,
Yeah.
So a dead
Yeah.
tree could be feeding.
Yeah.
Still feeding
Yeah.
the world or the earth.
yeah.
Well, and they've spawned a lot.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, oh, those redwoods are lovely. Yes,
I had a bias against doing this exercise. I knew it would come out. And this is the following. For many, many years, decades, I felt the power of trees just like that. It just comes when I'm in a certain area of trees, when they're all around me. And I will sit, I feel like meditating like immediately. It's like a command, you know, like they're speaking to me. And I get so much power of having a lot of trees that, especially trees that I know well and I've watched, you know, their cycles and I knew them from when they were growing up and I wondered, should I cut them or not? Because at the time, you know, the elm were dying about 40 years
yeah,
ago.
yeah,
And I thought, well, they're just gonna die anyways, but I let them live. And then they have survived up until now. They'll probably die, you know, they won't live like the old elm, but
mhm,
they're still there. So because I know those trees and I've watched them grow, they give me so much energy that I just feel like sitting always and just concentrating, meditating. And a part of me didn't want to do it just with one tree.
oh.
I know that the one tree
okay.
is just as powerful, it's a different experience. But the other experience I have just wouldn't let me concentrate on just one tree. So I did it perfunctorily, but then, you know, the rabbit called me.
There you go, it's all voluntary, it's all voluntary. Louis, you were going to say something?
I had quite the experience, actually. I went to the tree that's just on that side of the big building. It's the
Mhm.
biggest one that I could see, and so I headed for that one. And but I first asked, could I do this? Like, so, and then I wanted to go look at it, doing that. I sort of looked at marvelous tree. And so then I sort of backed up and followed your instructions that you gave us, and it was good. I felt the energy going all the way down to the center and all the way up to the sky. And then this bird went by squeaking. And I was being the tree up there, listening to the bird. And then I tried to go back down and I couldn't because I started feeling the connection with all the trees in the surrounding area. So I sort of, went with the flow at that point. One of the things that happened was, so I was feeling this connection, so I started wondering how far the connection went. And all of a sudden I started seeing fire. So I said, have you been in fire? Have you experienced fire here? And it wasn't about that. And I thought, oh, the world that's going on, and maybe there's a connection between that tree. So we sort of collectively, me and the tree, send them peace vibrations to over there or wherever this was. So you can see it was actually quite interesting. Oh, and the other thing that happened was at one point I thought, oh, I've been here long enough, maybe somebody else wants to do this big tree. Should I move? I could do another tree nearby, and it said, no need. We're connected. So you're feeling the other tree too. So I didn't. So that money.
That's lovely. Really nice.
It's fun.
Anybody else?
I felt it was really hard to connect with the tree, which is not really normal because I do this all the time. And I just sat down on the floor and I felt a real smoothness and a lot of easy. And then I just sort of joined in with the tree and like I was still there and it was just so smooth. Really clean. Really nice.
Nice. Okay. Shall we, is there anyone on Zoom who wants to say anything?
Anybody want to comment?
Going once, going twice? Okay, so I think we're going to wrap this up, this particular exercise. Louis, if I know a lot of you want to go and walk on the old growth forest. So you go do that and I'll go to my memorial service. Thank you, everyone.
So we're off, everybody, till 7 o'clock. We have the whole.
Oh, we at 5, but the Zoom
5
people.
o'clock for supper here in this room at 7 for the Mandela workshop. And for you Zoom folks, we'll see you back here at 7 p.m.
So
Right.
if somebody's interested, I actually took a photo of a map that I found on the internet.
We'll end here.